Hey, everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com. Welcome to another Around Town. And this is an exciting Around Town. We've got vocalist Tammy McCann here. And obviously, many of you probably know exactly who she is, but she has a show that she's going to be not debuting because she actually debuted it in 2019. We're going to talk about that, but it's called Yes, Mahalia. Of course, it's a tribute to Mahalia Jackson. And what an incredible show. I read a little bit about the background of it, and I'm looking forward to talking to you, Tammy, about all of this stuff. What an undertaking, really. I mean, just thinking about Mahalia's whole career, but also all of the different things that she also broke the barriers of. I mean, I was reading about her 22 million copies of recordings that she sold. Just incredible, playing to integrated audiences.
Yes.
Way before that ever happened, and obviously playing in jazz and blues and all that stuff. So how did this show come about? And congratulations, it's happening October 29th, 7:30 p.m. at the Music Institute of Chicago, and I'll give you more information about that too. So how did this whole thing come about, Tammy?
You know, this whole thing came about through, as you said, we premiered this through an opportunity with a piano player, Tamir Hendelman, just a lovely musician and a beautiful friend. And he said, Tammy, I want you to come with me to Israel. We want to do a tribute to Mahalia. And unfortunately, through scheduling, he wasn't able to make it. But he said, I want to introduce you to this promoter, and I want you guys to still do the show. And so in talking with the promoter, he said, I want to do something really special. And I said, well, I've had in my mind to do a concert that is like, brings the pure voice of Mahalia Jackson together with the sonic energy of a big band. And so he said, I've got the perfect guy. And he introduced me to this young man, E.L. Vilner, out of New York City, via Israel, Tel Aviv. And so he was just a lovely, lovely young man, but had no idea about gospel music. So we partnered, and I gave him kind of a gospel 101 course, all the way from the field hollers of slavery to Mary, Mary of present day. Yeah. And so we worked and really collaborated and created this amazing project, Yes, Mahalia. We premiered it in Tel Aviv. And so I'm so super excited to bring it home to my home, the Music Institute of Chicago, where I've been artist in residence for about 10 years now.
Wow, man. Well, first of all, what an interesting place to debut this show in Israel. I mean, why Israel? Why was that? Why did that happen in Israel? Because you would think this style of music and everything, maybe some other places in the world, but maybe not exactly debuting it in Israel. And what was the response to it there?
Well, for me, what better place than in Jerusalem?
Oh, yep.
You know, the fact that it's all about the vision, and this particular promoter, you know, had the vision to really join me in the journey of telling this story, because it's not only about her signature songs, it's also original songs of my own, and in tribute to not just her music, but her life and her contribution to the world community. You were talking about her music going worldwide, 20 million copies. You know, that's in large part to Studs Terkel and him introducing her music to his largely white audiences on his radio show. They became dear, dear friends. Many people don't know that the seminal interview that he did with Martin Luther King, he did it in Mahalia Jackson's living room.
Oh, wow.
They had a friendship of equals. And as he advocated for her, she advocated for him.
Do you in the show, Yes, Mahalia, of course, October 29th, 7:30 p.m., Nichols Hall. Nichols Hall is located 1490 Chicago Avenue, right there in Evanston, and all the tickets are available at musicinst.org. Everything's linked up down below. So make sure you get the tickets now, because they are starting to go quickly, I heard. You know, how do you, when you're putting this show together, I mean, what an incredible life she had. How many incredible experiences. I mean, you could probably just focus on one era and be able to do 4 hours on just the one era of her, but spanning everything. How do you whittle it down? How did you pick the different things to put into this show? Because it sounds like to me you're telling her story, and as well as, you know, attributing her music. But I mean, she's got such an incredible story too. So how do you even whittle it down, or do you timeline it out? I couldn't even imagine where to start.
You know, it is about, it's about her resilience, but it's also about the touch points in her life, how I got over. She sang that during the March on Washington, right before Martin gave his I Have a Dream speech. The I Have a Dream speech would not be that had not Mahalia not yelled from the audience as he's speaking, tell him about the dream, Martin, you know, and that took his mind to another speech that he had given days later. So he had been working on crafting this message, if you will, for several sermons as they toured together. And she was someone that he really held in such high esteem as a confidant. I think that we have to remember that when all this was going on, Martin was 35, 36, 34. As all of this is going on, such a young man with so much on his plate. And he would often call on Mahalia to just give him peace of mind, you know, to use the music as, you know, as an enrichment, you know, to sustain him as he got up every day. And so a lot of what this is about is the resilience of people of this generation. African Americans of this generation had such resilience, and you can hear it in the music, you can hear it in the messaging. You know, there is no moment when you just look down and give up. You only, you know, keep moving forward. The music that we're sharing will be Negro spirituals like Down by the Riverside and Canaan Land, all the way to Elijah Rock, Thomas Dorsey, who was, I think, more than just an accompanist. He was also her voice teacher, and together they really modernized. Modern gospel music was born, you know, with those two. And so we're going to explore a lot of that as well.
I was going to say too, because, you know, reading a little bit about her background and story, especially in the music side of it, you know, Tommy Dorsey, Bessie Smith, and obviously coming up through, you know, in the gospel world, obviously playing in like some of the first gospel groups at that point, really kind of creating the genre. But it reminds me a lot of you too, right? Because you ever since I've known you, you've always kind of combined all of your experiences into your voice. You know, you're not just like jazz or blues or I mean, you combine everything. So when somebody goes to see Tammy McCann perform, they're getting the full range of who Tammy McCann is every time, whether you're singing a jazz tune or not, or any of that stuff. So just the connection between you and her, and as you delved into more of her life as you're putting the show together, I mean, how did that must have affected you some ways, because you must have realized all these different connections that you had that maybe you didn't even realize some of the influences.
Absolutely. It's affected me throughout my life. My first growing up at St. Paul Church of God in Christ, which is I think the main foundational expression in my life was gospel music. And on top of that gospel was laid classical music with Dr. Lena McLean, who is the niece of Thomas Dorsey. So, I mean, it really, I come by it honest, right? All of this engagement and influence. So on top of the gospel, laid the classical for several years. And then on top of the classical, laid the jazz and the blues and avant-garde experiences that I've had throughout the years. And so when I go to present my music, I try to let the music, I try to let the music speak through me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I sometimes if you hear me sing a song, you know, some Cavalleria might come out, some, you know, Bessie Smith might come out. all of these different influences, but Mahalia is a real corner influence of mine because of just the pure nature of her voice. And more than anything, I feel like we're vessels that we want to engage the audience and take them on a journey with us. She had this ability to emote and connect with an audience. And that's what I hope that I do. And it's something that I feel is every day that I'm able to sing this music, I take my ancestors with me. And so, yeah, that's how I see it. That's how I see the flow of all of this music through my interpretation.
Yeah, what an incredible show. So again, October 29th, 7:30 p.m., Nichols Hall, the Music Institute of Chicago, musicinst.org for tickets. Let's talk briefly before I let you go here. Marcus Carroll on trumpet, and he's leading the group. I see. Who else is in the band? I mean, you've got to put together a kind of a pretty hardcore band that can play all these different genres and make it all happen behind you. So
oh my gosh, we're so lucky. Marcus has put together some of the baddest cats in the city. We've got Tom Vyatsas on piano. We have Rajiv Halim. We have backup singers. That's going to be, I added some special things for Music Institute that haven't been seen before. So yeah, it's just going to be, we're going to have a good time. We're going to really, really tear the house down.
Well, and real quick, obviously, you mentioned it at the beginning, but you've been the artist in resident there for 10 years. I mean, talk just briefly about the Music Institute of Chicago, because they always put on these unique shows, and the ability to put something like this on. I know in the past they do different jazz things, blues, but they do a lot of classical. They do a lot of different genres, and obviously it's a great teaching institution as well. Talk a little bit about your artist in residency there.
So I was brought to the Music Institute of Chicago by my mentor, Miss Elise Clairbout. And this was in 2011. And she had connected with Mark George, who is a fantastic leader and executive director of the Music Institute. And so they were doing a tribute to Billy Strayhorn. And it was just a marvelous concert. And I got a chance to meet him. And throughout that process, he came to some of my concerts. And he said, he was new to the Music Institute at the time. And he said, I have a vision. I see a synergy between jazz and classical music. And I said, wow, I do as well. And he said, listen, I'd love to have you be artist in residence for this year. It was supposed to be 1 year. And what I want is to find a way to use jazz as a teaching point for our students. So as this amazing classical, world-renowned classical institution, they have these babies, it's called the Academy, which are these brilliant babies that have careers at 10 and 12 years old.
Yeah,
and so he said, I want you to do a masterclass with them about connection and storytelling, because oftentimes, also because they're so young, they're so focused on the music, they don't recognize the importance of engaging with not just the music, but the audience as well in a performance setting. And so I remember my first master class with them. I said, the people that you admire, Yo-Yo Ma, Itzhak Perlman, watch the way they inhabit the music. And so Mark was like, I think that this is something I want to keep doing. And so every year I would be in charge of the jazz concerts. And so I've been programming their jazz festivals for the last 10 years. We've had Dee Dee Bridgewater. We've had Joe Locke with our tribute to Lionel Hampton. We've had the amazing Carmen Bradford. We did a tribute to, she and I did a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald. And so every year I just pour everything into those concerts. And sometimes I get a chance to participate as well. Just recently, we did a tribute to Les Paul with Les Paul Foundation. And so I found out that myself and Russell Malone were going to be premiering that show at Jazz at Lincoln Center. So it's a wonderful place to create. It's a wonderful team of people that really care about music and want to implant the love of music in every person in the community. It's not just for the children, it's for the entire community.
Yeah, that's the thing I've loved, because I've worked with them to advertise a lot of these things and promote this stuff. And when I met Mark years and years ago, I had him on my radio show, and it was just like, this guy, he had a vision.
Yeah.
And he really was able to push it, and it just keeps growing and growing. So musicinst.org for tickets, October 29th, 7:30 p.m. Yes, Mahalia, an original show by Tammy McCann. And Tammy, thank you so much for jumping on. I know you're in New York right now, so I know our time differences are a little off, but I'm glad we can make this happen so we can promote this on Around Town.
I am too, Mike. Thank you so much. Your contribution to jazz in Chicago is just unbelievable. You're such a treasure. Thank you so much for thinking of us and sharing the information about the show.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate this, and I'm going to try to get out there as well, as I encourage everybody watching to do as well. So again, musicinst.org for all the information, October 29th, 7:30 p.m. Of course, chicagojazz.com for everything Chicago Jazz. And until next time, hopefully I will see all of you out on the scene.